Welcome to Nature vs. Nurture, an insight podcast.
He's rattled.
This podcast is about the who, what, when, where, and why of nutrition.
You really want to know what's not a big fucking help?
Humans are a complex organism, and we're getting down to the nitty-gritty of it.
Honestly, guys, this is the first time I've ever really talked about it in a public forum. So tonight,
I feel ready now.
I feel the ice has been broken.
Yeah.
That's a big blue ball you got there, Joel.
Easy.
Yeah.
Over your shoulder, nonetheless.
Wow.
Impressive.
I don't use it. It's just for looks.
Must be getting older.
Obviously.
Must be getting
Obviously
older like us if he can throw them right up over his shower.
Right?
Yeah, I'm not there yet.
And obviously you're not using it. That's why it's blue.
Yeah. There you go.
All right. So tonight's question was brought to us by Maurice. She had mentioned she's a community member and wanted us to discuss either in a video to the group, but I thought it would be better to post it to bring it as a podcast because it's such a massive subject and it's got to do with support. She's incredibly happy because she gets the support from her family, from her husband and her child, and it's kind of infiltrated the whole family. And for the longest time, she would have been more or less the outcast. The husband's always been this kind of uber fit individual, and really kind of managed his diet, so to speak. I mean, right now, what she's going through in regards to insight, it's bringing a lot of information to the entire family. So he's, according to her, and this is hearsay, but he's finding his middle ground as well. He's seeing more flexibility with his food because of this, what she's learning within the community. And she's really kind of, as you can see through the postings and the foods that she's taking in over and above what was on the prescribed meal plan, she's really taking hold of this as well. She's getting to know her food, and her relationship with food is changing, but also the relationship with her family. It is literally like a family affair. Okay. So, I guess really this, what I want to talk about, because all of us can really relate to this. Joe and I've talked about this on several occasions, and I know Ben has jumped into it head on in consulting with clients. And Joel, you would see it in personal training where people just don't get the support at home. Mm-hmm. So how influential is that? Like, how big of a hindrance or a help is getting people to kind of be on your team to support you? I guess that's what we're going to hit on. Kind of the upsides and downsides of it. How it can be very detrimental, or it could be very contributory towards your overall health and development as a healthy individual. Right?
Yeah. I think it plays a huge part. Support is it's such a huge part. And me and the wife, we've always tried to stay in shape, and we're always trying to do better. And when one of us is not on board, it's not working. It's always been like, the time we had the best results was when we both did it at the same time, and like she would want to cheat or get some like an ice cream. I would say, whoa, you know what you're trying to achieve here? It's not, no, wait till the weekend. Oh yeah, you're right. So support is a major thing.
Okay. And I find the support is it's important in a way that you have to remember, like I've seen this through, practicing this for a lot of years, where the support can be deemed as policing. And I think that's one of the big contributing factors to the insight community, is that you have this third party where, I've often worked with people and they said, Neil, if I scripted you, if I wrote what it is that I wanted you to say and you said it as opposed to me, my husband or my wife or my child would listen to you, not me. And I think that there's an issue with that as well, where you can be too close in proximity. So anytime you try to encourage or even kind of mention, honey, should you be eating that? Or, are you going to the gym today? There could always be emotional attachment to that. And, there's always, and that's really why, us as coaches, why we're there and why the insight community exists, is because you're not that close in proximity. Like, it's not going to be taken personally. Right. I think that's one of the major things that I see, where people try to adopt this healthy lifestyle, and there's different ways of doing it. Like you're two people in the same family, or 3 or 4 people, but God, I've seen people come in and they I give them a meal plan, and they go out and they buy their groceries, and then they just go through the cupboards and they throw out all the other non-essential stuff, all the stuff that isn't on their meal plan, or that doesn't coincide with the paleo diet or the keto diet, or maybe they become vegan or vegetarian. So all this stuff, so the whole family's turned upside down because someone decides that they want to go to these extreme lengths, and they go in and they just basically force everybody to do that. And I see that so often in this industry, where people get into this and all of a sudden everybody else has to adopt it, and they force their hand, as opposed to just letting them see what it is that they're doing and the changes that they're making and how beneficial it is. You'll find that gradually they start to pick up, which is, I think, what Maurice is finally wrapping her head around is, if you build it, they will come.
I think there's 2 sides to that too. I remember when my parents joined Simply for Life, like, oh goodness, 15,
God, that was,
20 years ago or something.
Yeah,
it was
that's
like
when I started.
99 or 2000 or something. And then Mom started making these crazy meals, and I was not on board, like, at all. I did not enjoy that. I did not want these weird meals, these healthy meals that they were making. I just didn't enjoy it because I didn't find they tasted good. But that can be as much a learning style to sort of teach the family. But then there's sort of the flip side of that, where I've had clients that you're making 2 different meals. So you're making the healthy meal for you, and then you're making a different meal for your family. And that just sucks. I can only imagine how, like, cooking for kids sucks because you have to cook something sort of dumbed down for a meal for them. But I can only imagine your significant other, you're cooking like this lavish salad and this like nice salmon, this maple glazed salmon maybe. And then for them, you're like, okay, here's your burger or pizza, dear. It's like, that can be so detrimental to that relationship, because like, I'm trying so hard here to better me, but then I still have to handle and make this food, especially if you are the one, typically women, who are making the food and who are contributing to that sort of lifestyle.
And those are really good points, Ben. And the statistic, you're 50% less likely to be successful at any nutritional program or fitness program if you're not getting support from your significant other, like 50%. And also too, the I was going to bring up another point, but the eating, I've eating a healthy meal and then serving your family another meal is, again, it's tough because it's a bit hypocritical. It's like you not smoking, but allowing your whole family to smoke. You know what? And actually giving them the cigarette. So you're preparing this nice lavish salad for yourself, and you're sitting down and you're feeling better, but yet, so there's a difficulty there for people because they want other people to have what they have. Like someone sitting at the table eating the salad. God, I wish you guys could taste this. I wish you knew how good it was, and I wish you could see what I see. But a lot of the times it's a little premature. And if they just hold their ground, and I know you and I've said this before, Ben, that if they just continue on their path and they eat the salads and they start to feel better, and they're not sitting at the end of the table saying, oh my God, I wish I could eat that pizza that you guys are eating. This sucks. I can't wait to be off this diet. If you're there and you're eating something that's very nutritious and very, pleasing to you, and these other people start to see the results, they start to see that your behavior starts to change, your mood changes, your energy changes, your body composition changes. And they're going to gradually start to work over there, but people just don't give it the time. In these 6 weeks and 12-week programs, that's not enough time to turn your family around. That's why Insight is the way that it is. That's why the price point is the way that it is. It's allowing enough exposure, because health is every bit as transmissible as disease. It's the same thing. People catch health from other people the same ways you catch disease, right? So if you're in that family unit, and you've got the support of people outside of your family holding you accountable, encouraging you, then you can stand your ground within your family. And then before you know it, the family starts to actually pick up your behaviors because of the fact that they see it for themselves. It's that qualitative result. Does that make sense, you guys?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
And I'd love to hear, Joe, I'd sort of love to hear your opinion on what and how we can remain mindful when people are not supporting us. Because I know I've had a few clients who have friends or had friends that were complaining about them losing weight and like, oh, you're getting chicken legs, and like a lot of sort of the go-to advice online is like, cut them out. Like, you don't need those toxic friends and you don't need those people in your life. So how do
It's
you
tough
go
when it's your
about like
significant other.
maintaining a fresh mindset and continuing to be mindful while still in sort of that, I guess for lack of a better term, toxic environment?
There are really extremists like that posting online. Just cut people out of your life. I'm
No,
shocked.
not at all, Joel. No.
Listen, I guess for me, there's a bit of a catch-22 in it. There's a bit of a rub that, like a couple of the other shows where we were talking about, the fight or flight and how our bodies are reacting or not, when there's anxiety and stress and so on. And so part of it is that if I am trying to get my spouse or my kids or my family or my closest friends to buy into all of this with me and to jump on board. And if I was to go to the extreme, like Neil was saying, I went home and I ravished the cupboards and I threw it all out. And, because it wasn't there a TV show once where they used to do that. They'd go in, clean everybody's cupboards right out and throw them all in garbage bags. And then
that's like an intervention.
Yeah. Right. So if I did all of that, and then I ran to my family and my friends and my spouse and everybody else. And I said, you need to be doing this. You need to be on this with me. You need to be coming down this, traveling this journey with me. And they're all basically like, man, you're whack. Like, I don't even understand what's going on here, but I'm not doing it. If you need me, I'll be out at the grill. I'm going to do up some hamburgers. The stress and the anxiety that I am going to subject myself to by being concerned that they're not following me and they're not only not supporting me, but not following me at all, like not buying into this in any way, shape, or form, is physiologically and psychologically more detrimental to me than me just trying to move along through the process and hoping, or seeing or letting them experience, like Neil was saying a second ago, just at least as a byproduct experience what I'm experiencing, right? By viewing it off to the side, off in the wings. So there's a real rub there, or catch-22 in, do we want people, or do I, want to be out trying to get everybody to follow me in this, or am I willing to live my own life and hope to have the support? Because, and that's another part to the show that I know we'll get into, because I mean, we are still a society, a race of people that, still want that support, right? And we're part of community, and that's all inherent in who we are. So there's a part of that, and wanting that, and wanting people to approve of a lot of what we do. So if I switch back though to a purely energy mindful, this is my life and I'm living it way of being, yes, there would be people who would say, and who would teach, mindful awareness, who would say, man, just live your life. And if they want to be part of it, so be it. Just be who you are. And if they're going to be it, and that's, I mean, Neil and I have even talked about this in what I do. I mean, there are so many people that look at me sideways for what, I mean, it's, I used to be a banker and a realtor and stuff, right?
And a firefighter.
And a firefighter, and now I'm like, I'm walking around wishing everybody love and peace and teaching people how to be at one with themselves and the universe, and talking about quantum energy. And people are like, who the hell is that guy? So I mean, there is no one that, and listen, and Neil can also tell you that I'm a hugely personable guy, like, and I'm social, and I love being around people. I'm obviously, like a lot of firefighters and EMTs and so on. I have a lot of empathy, and I'm empathic, so I like being around people. I like seeing people be well and do well and all those types of things. But this is also my calling, and this is where this whole journey, I believe, has been leading me. And so I have a lot of these beliefs that, again, help people in so many different ways. But if I could only do what I do for the sake of everyone else loving it and wanting to hear more about it every minute of every day, and wanting to, circle around me at the coffee shop to have me, what my grandmother used to call the holding court, man, I'd be one lonely dude, right? But so I have to understand that I live my life, and and I meditate and I do some stuff, and and I'm getting healthy in this journey, getting back physically and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, I'm also having a beer, and I'm also having a burger every now and then, and I'm, again, no different than I still get angry when I'm in traffic and somebody flips me the bird. I mean, it happens. I
Yeah.
just don't live there anymore, right? I don't drive around for the next hour worried about it. So
Or chase them,
chase them to the other side of the river and write down their street address. And I mean, wait a minute, what? No, is this going to air? So you know, that's the other side.
That's how you and I met.
That it is, man. I couldn't believe that you had your finger right out the window. No. So look, I guess that's the side of the social part of who we are, and that acceptance, right? So that opportunity for acceptance is what we look for, and especially from that family unit. So there are two really distinct sides to the reality of what people are going through, and it kind of circles back to, you know, 3 or 4 shows ago where we also talked about we were talking more about support, but in a different way, right? And from the community and so on as well. And we were talking about it there too, where we said, you know, you're going to need some of that. But then at the same time, how do you balance how much of it you feel you need?
Right.
Right.
Without creating dependency, right? You don't want, we want to empower people. We don't want to enable them. And there's a really good point that you brought up. And that's, at the end of the day, it's not about need. We're all doing this for ourselves, and we really need to wrap our heads around that. And I really love that you brought that up, Joe, is we are doing this for ourselves. We need leaders. We need people out there that are blazing the trail and then saying, okay, you know what, I'm going in. And we've seen on the fire field in the fire department where, you know, it just takes one catalyst, that purchase point. One person goes in, I'm going in regardless of anybody else wanting to go in because I need to go in. And it's the same, like, you need to do this for your family, but you have to do it for yourself first. And then the family will follow. This is it. We're leading from behind. I'll go if you go. Oh, no. Well, I'll go if they go. And then all of a sudden no one goes. Right. And this is it, is we've created a dependency in this culture where we need other people's accolades to tell me I'm doing a good job. Tell me that, right? Instead of, you know what, your family, I without even a moment's hesitation, I would do it for a stranger. But my family, I would stand in front of a bullet. I would take a knife. I would, right? So, I mean, we're at this pandemic level when it comes to chronic illness, and there needs to be someone in the family that's going to step forward and say, listen, I'm going to do it. Now, that being said, believe it or not, you guys, the biggest influence on dietary and lifestyle habits, and again, I think Ben had hit on this and Joel had hit on this before, is, believe it or not, the man. Because women tend to take care of themselves. So they're on and off diets. And so, you know, the people in the family say, okay, mom's on another diet again. And I've said it, I've lived it, I've seen it. And when the father pays attention to something, all of a sudden people stand up and take notice. Wow, dad's doing something. So it really kind of does boil down, because men typically couldn't give a shit.
Thick. I was going to say that's probably because we're so thick. So they're surprised when we finally pay attention. Yeah,
us men, we'll eat whatever gets put in front of us. And Ben alluded to it a second ago, where the female, the mother, or the wife tends to cook for the majority of the time. Like, this is 2020. And I still have people that I see individually that say, if I don't cook supper, my husband will starve to death. I'm like, fuck, are you kidding me? Yeah. It's 2020. Maybe something should be addressed in that relationship. But in terms of, male influence, it's really, really important. And I feel if there are men that are listening to this and your significant other is embarking on betterment, self-betterment, you need to step up and support her, because your stamp of approval on this will mean a lot to the kids. And especially where, you may be just a lazy ass, you know what I mean? And there are men out there that are like that. Yeah. It could do you a lot of good to maybe just not bitch and complain and put up this bravado front when your significant other decides to do something for his or herself. You know what I mean?
That's one of the other sides of it. Right. It is. Yeah. That's one of the other sides of it. One of the other sides of it is that psychology, right? That cognitive side, where there are a lot of people who have a lot of hangups around a lot of things, of course. And that's how that's how we relate them, right? So the husband sees that, his spouse is on, is part of this community, let's say, as an example. And there are a whole raft of things that we wouldn't even have enough time if we ran the show straight for a week and somebody just kept bringing us coffees. We wouldn't be able to cover all. But we could. Maybe we could make that some sort of a challenge or something.
Marathon,
we can donate to charity. Yeah, marathon
Ben's already
podcast.
doing it.
But look, with there are a whole lot of things that come into play there, and what are the insecurities, right, and what are the things that person is experiencing, and there's a whole lot of psychology around that, of course. But that is like the eighth point to the star that we also need to at some point discuss, or that the people who are experiencing that need to be able to look at themselves and say, okay, listen, I understand that he's not behind me on this. I need to accept that. I need to understand why he's not, right? Maybe there were challenges in the past. Maybe there's this, maybe there's that. Maybe he was cut from, he was just about to go to the NHL and was cut, and now he's, he can't stand sports anymore, and he's gone completely off the rail. I mean, who knows? It could
just be general app. It just doesn't give a shit. Like, you want to lose weight? I genuinely do not care. Like, you're beautiful how you look now. You'll be beautiful if you lose 10 or 20 pounds.
And that's okay too, right? It's not as positively supportive, but at least he's not negatively holding her back, right? Yeah. It's when our support goes completely the other way that we're holding people back. Then that they're even more challenges. But again, that's a whole other show.
What support looks like to the individual, right? Like, that's a good point, Joe.
Yeah.
Is, just because they're not baking for you or cooking for you doesn't mean that they're not. Support could be deemed as not getting in the way. Letting you do your thing.
Go to the gym, or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Which is sad that even has to be said anymore. That the dad has to watch the kids. I mean, there are kids, but again, we're surprised sometimes that we're still in 2020. But
and I agree. We should. I mean, it should start from you. Like, you want to do this for yourself, and this is where it should start. And if you don't have support, you should try to do it on your own. This is where Insight is great, because if you've got no one, you got the community, right? So you're surrounded by people in the same situation as you. And I think it's support. Yes, you want to do it for yourself, but I think it's because you're trying to create a new habit, right? You're trying to create this new healthier habit, and you kind of need that support at first, because yourself, someone's trying to quit smoking. Like, he may try 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times before he actually achieves what he's trying to do. And at first, I think it's really important to have these people when you're trying to, if you have a relapse or you're trying to go back to your old ways, you got people saying, hey man, right now this is what you want, but deep down I know what you really want to do.
And that's tricky, strong, Joel. That's tricky, because again, like, people get dependent, and what happens is, like, you've seen it in the gym. You have these people that have these training partners, and they go great, and then one of the training partners starts to fall off, so the other person falls off because they don't know what it's like to train without them, right? So there's a dependency issue there that I feel that a lot of people have in their mindset, where they have to have accolades. Like, I've seen it, people drop 100 pounds and man, everybody's ate shit. Oh my God, this is great. You're incredible. You're incredible. And then a couple months pass and they're not losing any more weight because they've achieved their goal, and the accolades stop. And we've talked about this before. So where's your support then? Really, and what was happening was you misconstrued, accolades and that type of thing for actual support. The support of this community is the fact that we're there for you. You still need to reach out. And the support at home, believe it or not, for a lot of the people that I've spoken to, it's there for them, but they've never asked. They just assumed. Right. You know what I mean? So there's a lot to that. Like, the communication within this community is astonishing. Mm-hmm. And I think that people need to say and take that to their home as well. Because so many people sit in my office and they say, Neil, so-and-so is not supporting me. Well, have you asked them? Yeah. Well, no, right? But so-and-so's eating chips in front of me at the end of the day every day. Well, have you ever asked them to stop? Yeah. Without just saying stop, but explaining to them what it's doing to them.
Exactly. And sometimes it's just a matter of saying, hey man, I've had a rough day. It's hard right now to not eat those chips. I find it difficult to not have that drink tonight. Yes. It's not necessarily saying, hey man, can you help me? can you stop me from drinking that beer, eating those chips? It's just saying like, I've had a shit day and this is how I feel. And
absolutely, man. Perfect.
They might just say that simple thing, like, you're trying to do this, you're doing great, like, don't stop now. And that might be just enough to keep them on the right track.
90% of people, Joel, 90% of people want to help. They just don't know how.
Yeah. Exactly.
And, or they're so overwhelmed in their own lives, they just don't even consider it. So it's ignorance, but not in the derogatory sense. The fact that they're barely holding on to what it is that they have. Mm-hmm. But to actually help someone in their time of need, you'd be amazed at how many people would jump at that opportunity, but no one asks. Yeah. So if you, I mean, imagine if we threw away the term food and talked about alcohol, and you're at home and you crack a beer and your significant other is a recovering alcoholic. And they looked at you and said exactly that. Listen, sweetie, if I had a shit day, I'm really craving that beer, or I'm really craving that. Would you mind not doing that tonight? It would really help. It would really help me. Yeah. Right. But what happens a lot of the time is we get, accusatory. Why do you do this to me? Why would you do that? Why would you open that beer? Why would, right? Yeah. And but this is what the community does for people, is it gives them a chance to use us as a sounding board, and we can give them insight like this so that they can better approach. I mean, we've got Joe, we've got experienced trainers and nutritionists, right? That can help them kind of see around this and maybe approach things differently so that they can get a different result.
And something I learned about late last year was, and Joe, you might know about the Maslow hierarchy of needs.
Hierarchy of needs,
yeah. So you have basically 5 or 6 basic needs. I brought it up here so I can read it. You have your physiological needs. So you need your food, your water, your warmth, rest. You have your security, your safety needs. But then where sort of insight comes in is threading the needle between all of the last 3. Yeah. So you have belonging, or you need to be loved, which it goes along with what we're sort of talking about, is you need that support system from the family. And then above that, you need your self-esteem. So you need to feel good. And for some people, losing weight makes them feel good. Gaining bulk makes them feel good. And just eating healthy can make you feel better and have better self-esteem. And then above that is self-actualization. So you finally achieved, okay, I'm feeling good, and here's where I'm going to rest. That is the ultimate goal. And I think for a lot of people, you will eventually sort of flutter between the top 3, hopefully. And you'll be able to sort of, okay, well, maybe I'm not actualized and I just need to work on my self-esteem a little bit.
Right.
Maybe I don't feel loved or don't feel like I'm belonging, so I need to work on that. But you need to be able to float between those 3 so that you can achieve what you're trying to achieve.
That's a great point. Yeah.
Well, those are the few that, and it's what we were starting to touch on a little bit earlier, was that, it's also about understanding all of that within our own minds, right? Yeah. So let's say, and in my exposure to PTSD, I mean, myself, and then in others that I've worked with, when we're looking at PTSD and understanding that, well, I've had family and friends walk away from me. I've had, my closest friend hasn't talked to me since I've told them I have PTSD. All of these things. And then they say, what the hell's wrong with people? Why won't they help me? Why won't people step up? Why did my friends leave me? One of the very first things that you'll hear from anyone who is on the other side of that fence is, I had no idea how to help. I know it's such a serious thing. It's such a serious thing. I mean, they almost committed suicide, or they almost this, or they almost that. I don't want to be the one who ends up causing them to, because I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to do. So in a much less dramatic fashion, let's look at the fact that if I go home and my spouse, they don't know what to expect of me when I say I joined Insight. I'm, getting meal plans. I'm going to get back to the gym, or I'm doing some home workouts thanks to Joel or whatever. And my spouse, who maybe has never entered a gym in her life, is like, okay, well, if you need anything, let me know. And I may not have even heard that. She may have been, standing on the other side of the island, and one of the kids said something, right? So now I don't even think she has said anything. But then down the road, she doesn't think she has to keep asking me every day, is there anything you need from me? Is there anything I can do to help support you in your... So part of it, a big part of it, again, and I hate to be the guy that always goes in here, but part of it is our...
It's your job, dude.
Well, it is true. Somebody's got to do it. Rationalizing, or the irrational side of what we think we know about why others aren't supporting us or are supporting us, right? And so just as Ben was saying, I mean, there are all of those things that as we're growing our own self-awareness and self-love and self-confidence, part of me would love to see that people no longer need the support, of their spouse or whomever else down the road, or of society, or is somebody going to be good with how much weight I've lost, or how much muscle I've put on, or how much money I now make, or the kind of car I drive, or whatever it is, right? So that's an ultimate goal of somebody like me. Of course, it's to see everybody doing that. The short term, though, and then the midterm is well, first and foremost, having an intense community like this, where we can just gather so much information, and we have so many people we can draw on, and we can report back to, and we can talk to, and we can share things with. And then as that starts to mellow out a little bit, weeks 3, 4, 5, whatever, people just, it's like family. And anytime somebody can post something, right, and it's 12 weeks down, 20 weeks down the road, and they can post something, and people are like, hey, good on you, or I saw you the other day, and blah blah blah, or whatever. And that's what's really cool about communities like this. And again, irregardless, listen to me, where did I grow up? Regardless of what the ultimate goal of, somebody like me saying, as long as we don't ever need anybody but what's inside our own minds again, we are a social being, right? And we do look for society to kind of affirm what it is that we're doing, right? And provide that moral support. So
have you guys heard the term the stranger's compliment? All right. Nope. So essentially it's one of these things where if I went out and right now and told Jody she was beautiful, Jody's my wife, but I could say that. Sorry, I just thought I'd throw that in there.
Oh, did you guys get married? Oh, I didn't see any of the posts or anything. Oh, sorry.
Congratulations, Neil. You weren't fishing at all.
Anyway, back to the point. So I say that to her, and then, of course it's nice and everything. And then we go out, and then a perfect stranger will come up and say, wow, you're beautiful. Right. And it will have a whole different effect, a whole deeper connection with her because of the fact that, this person isn't part of my life. There's no, I would hope that there's nothing, there for leverage. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, it's deeply felt. Because this person could have walked by, this person didn't need to say that. Whereas myself as her husband or, anyone as a partner, it's kind of like, well, yeah, that's your job. It's like when your mom calls you handsome or talented or you're a great singer. Yeah. My mom thinks I'm great.
And then they end up on American Idol and they're really bad.
Right? So we know how much water that holds. But that's the thing. Like, imagine having a community where it's the best of both worlds. You get to know these people, but these people really don't have a reason to compliment you. They could just remain mute. They're in there for themselves. But we get out there, and then all of a sudden, like I find it's incredible. And I've been doing this my whole life. And to hear compliments even coming towards me in regards to something that I've said or a point that I brought up, man, it means the world to me. Whereas, my mother could tell me that I had a great post or that I, did something fantastic, and it just wouldn't mean the same thing.
Well, and actually what's really cool, since we've started Insight and we've had more members and it's gotten more active, my Facebook feed, even just scrolling like aimlessly, has been so like 100 times more positive.
Yeah.
Just because I'll see posts from somebody who's like, "Yeah, I'm so excited, I lost some weight," and or hey, I had a great
picks up
week,
on that algorithm.
I made a good choice this week. Whereas before it was just like, oh, this sucks. This is just like garbage memes, and then people just accusing it all politics and just BS about coronavirus. And now it's just really positive stuff about people changing their lives and listening to Joe and listening to Neil. And I'm like, shit, this is actually kind of cool how different it can make you feel seeing that, even just in passing, scrolling aimlessly.
Yeah. I agree.
And guys, this show ties back to, towards the end of one of the other shows where we were talking about, people being in the community and preparing for how things were going to change. Right. So if you remember that part, we were like, are we preparing them? Are they prepared? Do they understand, how things may change, right? How friends may view them or not, ask them out, ask them not, go for a beer or not. Are they part of the, the club anymore? What's their family going to say? And again, that's part of this. And that can be part of, what our members who are listening can be doing as they're going home to their spouse or to their parents or whoever it happens to be, their kids, and saying, listen, mom is going to be doing this some, or dad's going to be doing this some, and guys, it would be really cool if you could help me with this, or there may be times, so there may be times when I want you to do that, or listen, I'm not going to force you to eat everything I'm eating 7 nights a week, but you know what? I would love if on Thursdays or, Sundays and Thursdays or whatever, you guys try a meal that I'm going to make that, that dude from Simply for Life, put together at Insight here for me, I heard that 20 years ago nobody liked his food, but now they do.
It's trending.
Yeah, apparently it's trending now. It only took 20. No, I'm just kidding, man. I knew you way back then, and I ate it all. It was great. I don't know what's wrong with Ben, but anyway. And you know what, Neil, your mom liked it too. So
she told me.
I was
she
16
told you.
and a piece of shit.
So preparing them too, right, and being able to include them a little bit in some of that, and even some of it, and then, like we said earlier, they're watching, right, and they're watching.
Yeah.
Offering to help a little bit.
They learn through behavior.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah, they watch and learn.
They start seeing it, and then if they're seeing then the psychological changes, right? Dad's in a better mood, or mom's in a better mood more, because that's how kids equate stuff, right? They're in a good mood or they're not. Yeah. Right? I'm either spending more time in my bedroom just for my own, well-being, or whatever, right? So when they start seeing changes in a lot of those things, now they're also equating it to what you were saying earlier about, I love you guys to death. We spend so much time together. I would spend every minute with you if I could. However, there are also little things that I have to do for all of us, and that is my overall health, and that is, my wellness, and that is, whatever. And this Joe dude says I need to meditate for 5 minutes a day, and I'm going to try it, and whatever, right? Yeah. And so as they're starting to see the changes, then they're like, wow, this is really cool, and our family dynamic is better, or our circle of friends is stronger, or there are all these things, right?
So what you're saying then is transparency. Is if people communicated better in families in regards to not what's going on externally, not what Donald Trump is doing, or not what's going on whatever sitcom they're watching, or whatever, this bullshit conversation that people have amongst one another. But if they really started to open up and let people in and say, okay, this is what I'm doing, can you be a part of it? Then there's a better understanding, better communication, and in that you'll get better support. I think one of the major hindrances to support is the fact that we're just not asking, and the fact that there's no communication. How many people, Ben, can you attest to that? Well, I don't want people to know that I'm doing this, or they hermetically seal themselves. They think that it's all on their own. And this is the biggest component, the insight, why we created this. We can't do this alone. We're community people. It takes a village to raise a child. It takes a community to support health, and that community grows, and it's growing, and we're sitting here and we're watching it. But at the end of the day, it's got to be the fact that there's better communication. But where do you practice the communication? I know when I was dating, before I asked someone out, I would refer to my friends. Okay, I'm gonna, run some lines, or what do you think? And get input, get insight. And then what I would do is take bits and pieces from their advice, and then I would go, and I would, right? So this is exactly what people need. And I'm already seeing within the group, believe it or not, people that have done like an 8-week challenge saying, okay, I got this. I'm like, whoa. 20 years tells me that you don't get it. You don't get it. The reason why I'm successful with my weight, my health, and my fitness is because of you guys, because of my clients. Honestly, and this hit me today. I was explaining it to someone, and it hit me today, and it was like an aha moment. The reason why I am the way I am is not from what I know. It's you guys. It's me being held accountable to you guys, because you would not listen to me if I was 80 pounds overweight, reeked like scotch, and had pizza stains all over my wife beater.
How many doctors do you know like that? That's
exactly
what sort of gets me, is there's a lot of doctors, even dietitians, that are overweight and that are just giving you advice of like, eat your vegetables. And I'm like, fuck you.
Right.
And as derogatory as that is, it's like, I don't appreciate somebody or a doctor or somebody telling me who's not, or who doesn't practice what they preach. So that's 100%. That just gets me riled up, just because I 100% believe in people who are by their word and will communicate effectively. Like if you are doing what you say, or if you watch dating references. So if you're watching the movie Hitch, does anyone remember
Yeah,
the movie
yeah,
Hitch
yeah,
with
yeah,
Will
yeah.
Ferrell? Or not
Yeah.
Will
Smith.
Smith.
Will Smith, yeah.
He's a terrible dater, but he's a great dating coach. So if you're just you got to practice what you preach, man.
Absolutely. And honestly, like this, I've had a community my whole life. Ben, you've got a community, right? And it keeps us accountable, and it's changed us. And I just realized that honestly today. I'm like, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, okay, well, why am I not struggling with my weight anymore? Why am I constantly every day bettering myself? And it's got nothing to do with, like, if I was alone, I would get distracted. Like the pressure and everything would get to me. But it's the fact that I know that people are watching. I know that my family's watching. I know that my community insight is watching now. I need to toe the line, because if so, I don't deserve to be where I am. I have to, I can't be a hypocrite. And this is something that I wish everybody had, and you guys have. Joe, you have it. Ben, you have it. Joel, you have it. God bless Greg. He's homesick because he played in the heat. He's got it, right? And everybody, every member has it. It's something that's absolutely incredible and invaluable, but it's the long game. It's what keeps you doing what you're doing when you don't feel like doing it, because there's days where I don't.
And so here's the thing. If Rona gave us anything, it was coming back together, right? Communication.
Did you say Rona? Did you say Rona or Corona?
Rona.
It's the Rona.
I was being hip,
Oh my God!
I heard some Huey Lewis
Where's
today.
Greg?
So
Where's Greg when you need him?
Hip to be square, boy. Sometime bringing the '80s back. Listen, just not bringing my hair back apparently with it. But but look, if it did anything though, it allowed us to start connecting in and having these conversations again, right? And sure, Netflix subscriptions are up and all that kind of stuff, and that's fine. But we're still talking more, right? More people are home, families are working from home, we're spending more time together. So the challenge, and what concerns me, and what I love about this community and this opportunity for people, is that everyone's talking about, all right, but since we've all been home, we've been eating like bastards, and everything's getting overloaded, and there's all this stuff. So I need to get back out and get to the gym. I need to do this and I need to do that, and all the things that are going to bring us all back apart again. I'm hoping more people will find opportunities like this type of community.
Yeah.
Say, no, wait a minute. We want to keep you communicating. We want to keep you some with your family. We want to keep you, being, doing some home workouts even, or doing some things like that aren't necessarily taking us back apart again, and the communication back down, right?
Yeah. And in order to do that, there needs to be some accountability, because if you don't feel grounded or attached, then it's very easy for something or someone to pull you in the other direction, right? And we'll go back to old habits. And again, I'll fall back on that statistic, guys. 97% of people within 5 years have 100% of their weight back.
Yeah.
Right? And that
brings up something else that you said earlier about when you were dating and you would check in with like the buddies to get like little bits of information here or there. And that's the other side to this that is the danger for down the road, is when we're not only not getting the support from other people, it's when we're getting the wrong kind of support from other people.
The gym doctors,
the gym,
all the other,
the ones who worked out once back in '99,
or did a show
with the, or whatever, right? Yeah, I don't know, back in whenever, and they've got all this great advice that, oh no, you don't need to be doing that, you don't need to be doing that, you don't need to be paying attention to that, you don't need to be eating that, right? And again, there are some different things there, and that's ego, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that we could again talk for a couple of hours on with regards to the mind. But so it's paying attention to that too, and recognizing our own worth, so that we're not allowing those conversations to sidetrack us just for the purposes of having that support, right? Because that can be important. It can be equally as important. Well, I'm not getting support here. Oh, but I'm getting it over here. That guy's batshit crazy, and the information's horrible. But it's support, and I'm feeling the love. I'm feeling like somebody is here with me in this journey, right? So again,
it's filling that void,
Well, it is, right? And so that's the other thing that I love about this, is that, I mean, you can be talking to people who are actually doing it, right? So people are posting the meals that they've cooked, and so they're doing it. It's right there. I mean, unless they stole it from Pinterest, but I'm sure they did cook. Oh man, I knew I saw that picture twice somewhere else. But so we're seeing all that stuff, and so we know it's the right support, right? And so we know that we can be inside here and posting something, and somebody else will feed into it for us, right? So
There we go. That was
You're
the
the
podcast.
man.
Perfect.
Zach, I tried to drop my mic, but it wouldn't fall.
Yeah.
It's on the stand.
So I guess really, like, you know, support is, it's important, but it's one of these things that when you're doing it right and for the right reason, it will come. It's not something that you need in the beginning. You need to step through this door on your own by yourself, the same way as you came into this world, right? And then all of a sudden, if you're doing it for the right reasons and it is healthy, you will infect the people around you and they will support you, but they'll support you in the way that they need to support you. And that's the thing, like their version of supporting you might be different. There's a saying, don't expect you from other people, meaning, okay, you're on this journey, irregardless of people supporting you or not. That extra support really is nice, but it's not needed. But again, this is what happens, is that when you don't need something tends to fill that space. You find that you end up having people around you. It's that needy relationship. There's no trust. There's nothing there. There needs to be this relationship that forms. So your relationship with health starts with you, and then it infiltrates the extremities of your life. It starts to infiltrate the people that are closest to you. It infiltrates your work environment. It infiltrates everything. It's pathological. It's just the way it works. It's like energy, Joe. You talked about quantum, right? It's the same thing. So we just need to not look at the big picture and worry about infecting everybody around us. We need to just start to really just pay attention to ourselves and understand that eventually that will take place. But we're constantly jumping.
Yeah.
Go into an office environment. Oh, sorry, Joel.
That's all right. Well, I was just gonna say, it reminds me of something I've heard before in school, that when you go to school, you learn to learn, and there's got to be a proper balance between the moral support and what you can support yourself within, like your personal drive to do this, right? So there's got to be a proper balance, and what they'll give you is you'll learn some stuff from your support, from the tidbits of information you get, and then after a while you need to accumulate that information. You learn by yourself, so you go out on your own, you start researching stuff on your own, so you know enough, you've scratched the tip of the iceberg, and you know the rest exists now, right? So that's how I see it. So there's got to be that balance. You can't keep taking the information forever and without building your own idea of what it is. So it comes with experience too.
Yeah, you need to be able to do it on your own. Like we all know those people that in high school and university were like physically fit, and you know, and then you bump into them years later into their 40s, and they've let themselves deteriorate. Like they look like shit, they feel like shit, they're unhappy because they don't have someone yelling at them. They don't have a team to be accountable to. They don't have the times, like, so they couldn't do it on their own. They were enabled. You know what I mean? Whereas you have people like us that, you know, we don't have that anymore. And this is where we've developed this community, because again, like I do it, I've always done it for my kids. I did it to be a firefighter because I wanted to be the type of firefighter that I would want arriving on the scene. If my kids or my family was stuck in a house, I needed someone who's physically capable and psychologically, mentally prepared to go in there. Right. And I've always prided myself on that, but I'm not a firefighter anymore. And we need those purposes. We need that to take place. We need a reason. We need a why. And, you know, honestly, right now, you know, us being leaders in this community, that's the big why for me these days. It's a lot like, you know, again, in university, you don't want to let your team down. So you put the hours in the gym, you train so that you know that, you know, a team is only as strong as its weakest link. But when that team goes away, you've lost your identity, right? And that's where the dependency can lie on these things. And it's important that when you do this, you do it for yourself, by yourself, knowing that others will join you. Right. Mic drop.
Yep. Man, we're really failing on this whole mic drop thing.
I know. Next week we're all gonna have these fake mics.
Yeah, we'll get some fake mics. I was gonna say earlier too that just, you know, when we talk about, you know, like even in business, guys, like that we've all been in, and you talk about how, you know, somebody really likes your services, but they may or may not ever tell anyone. But if anyone is at the least bit unhappy, they're going to tell 20 people, kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same with an office environment or our work environment, right? We all sit around and we rib each other and call each other names or carry on about, you know, about how crazy the world is, or who's in power as president of where, or whatever's going on, right? And we talk about all of these things, but what we don't sit around and say is, man, you know what? Like, you're looking really good lately. Like, you know, things are really coming for you, right? Like, good on you, and blah, blah, blah. We'd rather kind of bust balls and carry on and, you know, talk about the negativities of the world and whatever, right? So that's the other side that we need to remember when we're looking for the support from others, is we have to be prepared ourselves to understand that it may take, you know, this long. Whereas if we had done something wrong, we'd barely have gotten our ass in the door, and they'd be
so true. That's so true.
So there's a little bit of that too, that mentally we need to kind of prepare for. Again, when we go back to preparation of this journey, right, and the support, that's kind of where, and again, it's where a community like this steps in, especially in those early days, steps in and says, you know, we're here for you. This is who we are. Lean on us while you're waiting for, you know, your work family or your family.
To get their heads wrapped around it.
To also get their heads wrapped around it, right? So
kind of like an intermediary.
Exactly.
Good. Okay.
Real mic drop.
Damn it.
This time it's for real.
This time it's for real. So I think, it's a good point that we brought up, guys. It's a really valuable topic, because at some point or another, everybody's going to confront this, where you're going to get, I mean, we talked about the saboteurs and stuff like that, and that's a whole different demographic. This podcast is dedicated to, you know, support, and really the support begins with you. Is, you know, you ask for it if you need it or if you want it, you know what I mean? But don't create a dependency. Don't be dependent on whether or not you do something for yourself based on whether or not others support you. Okay. That's just not how it's going to work. It's a recipe for disaster. You do things, and then along the way, you'll reach out to people that are close to you, that are ironically on a similar journey, right? When you're walking a trail and you get lost, chances are, you know, you're not going to find someone who's not even on that trail. Chances are someone passing by on that very same path, you'd be able to stop them and ask them for directions, or even maybe someone on their way back. And that's what community leaders are. There's an old saying, is if you want to find out where you're going, if you want to get directions to where you're going, ask someone on their way back, right? So that's why us as experts, that's why we make ourselves available to the community as much as we do, is because we've got that insight. We've been to where these people are going. We're past that. We're still developing ourselves, but we're not developing to a point where we don't see how important it is for these people to get our information and have that support from people that are on a similar journey. Cool.
Love it.
Okay. Yes. I think Ben fell asleep.
I did.
Yeah. Was somebody supposed to cue us there? That was. And I will make one last point. It was a beautiful.
Oh
speech.
God!
It was a beautiful speech. Point. It was a beautiful speech earlier, so I didn't want to interrupt, but I'll say it now. when you were going to blame all of us for how you are, I was like, where's he going with this? No, man, I love you. I do.
Yeah, I lay awake at night, Joe.
See, again, that's where we're going with all of this. We need to not be too concerned with who likes us or who doesn't. We need to be there for ourselves, right?
Yeah. So I get up in the morning. First thing I think of is, what is Joe? What can I do to make Joe like me?
Yeah. Will he care today, or will he not? But, and you know what? For all intents and purposes, for those who see us carrying on like this, I mean, this is part of it though too, right? This is part of that community environment, to be able to be like this, you know, and not have to hang up and call the other guy out when you pick up the phone in a couple of minutes.
You and I saw in the fire department, dude. Like, we come back from these, horrendous calls, and we'd have to laugh. We'd have to share these things, knowing that everybody's hurting in a different way because of the way that you conceptualize and absorb those things. But man, the shit that we get into back at the station, it was therapeutic, but that was our community. That was our family, right?
And you know what? A lot of that is like this. I mean, when people have been eating something or not exercising or whatever the entirety of their lives maybe, and then are stepping into some of the challenges that they're facing in getting back to wellness or any sort of health or weight loss. I mean, it's right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of that. So not being completely serious all the time is
right.
yeah. I tend to lean
We're,
that way. So deal with
where's Greg when you need him? Thinking of not serious.
Exactly right.
Right.
You too can be an Insight member. For less than $40 a month, you can have a personalized meal plan, access to our app, and our private Facebook group, as well as other perks and prizes. For more information, go to insighthf.com.